You are listening to Latinx America, a podcast focused on highlighting catalysts who are using, leveraging, or creating technology to help our community achieve more. With your host, Adriana Flores Ragade. Thanks for listening to our 7th episode. So far, we've been inspired by the stories of entrepreneurs like Jessie Martinez, Sara Y. Espinosa Salamanca, Justino Mora, Marisela Garcia Marquez, Frank Carvajal, and Marcia Chong Rosado. Through their stories, we hope you are getting a sense of how they got to where they are and how you or people close to you can benefit from the advice they share. Please don't forget to subscribe and review after you listen to each of the stories. Today, we're highlighting someone who works at a nonprofit and is trying to have an impact by increasing broadband access in the Latinx community. Our guest is Norma Fernandez. She is the Chief Program Officer for EveryoneOn, a national nonprofit dedicated to eliminating the digital divide. In this role, Norma oversees the organization's digital inclusion national and regional initiatives with the goal of connecting 1 million people. Norma also manages EveryoneOn's partnerships with wireless and cable internet service providers, computer providers, and a network of diverse organizations across the country to drive awareness and broadband adoption. Norma is very passionate about helping all communities thrive and volunteers with several organizations. We're glad to have Norma Fernandez today at Latinx America. Thank you, Norma, for joining us. Why don't we start by asking you to introduce yourself and tell us about your journey?
Sure. Well, thank you, Adriana, for having me. I'm really excited to be joining you on this podcast. So I'm Norma Fernandez. I currently live in Pasadena, California, just a few minutes out from the City of Angels, where I was born and raised. And I'm currently working for a national nonprofit called EveryoneOn. And our mission is to create social and economic opportunities for people by connecting them to the internet. We strongly feel that there is still a huge digital divide in this country, and we are working towards making sure that people have access to internet so that they can leverage the power of the internet. So a little bit about my journey. I'm actually a urban planner by training. I started off my educational career at Santa Monica College, transferred to UCLA, where I did a bachelor's in sociology, and I stayed there to do my master's in urban planning. I've always been interested in community development and the idea of civic engagement and what that means for a community when folks need to plan their cities, when they need to think about what are tools that they need to inform how their communities are built. So when we're thinking about park access, food access, educational access. So my background is in urban planning, but I'm so happy to be working at EveryoneOn because I believe that no matter what field, for me, one of my personal passions is to really link folks to resources, tools, information that they need to improve their quality of life.
Thank you, Norma. How dire right now is the need to close this gap, this access gap for our community? Can you share some numbers or shed some light into what the current state of access is in terms of the digital divide?
Yes. So when we talk about the digital divide, we're talking about the people who don't have internet access at home versus those that do. And when we talk about internet access at EveryoneOn, we want to make sure that we're conveying that we're talking about having broadband at home, right? So that you're accessing the internet beyond your cell phone. Obviously nowadays, a lot of information is online, a lot of resources, tools could be accessed online, but to truly have equitable access and fast access, we're talking about home internet service. So whether that's through a cable provider or wireless provider, talking about internet access beyond the cell phone. So in terms of what it looks like, that digital divide landscape, nationally, according to the Pew Research Center, 58% of Latinos have home internet access. So that's almost 60%, which means that we're missing about 40% of Latino households that do not have home internet service. Compared to Black households, that's 65% that have home internet service. And then the white households have 78% of white households have internet service at home. So it's no secret that I think race plays a part here, but more so does economic status. So when you also look at the numbers of who is more disproportionately unconnected, it's really low-income communities of color and also immigrant communities. So it's pretty dire. Overall, though, nationally, there are about 62 million people that don't have internet access at home, and about 20% of those live in rural communities where we know infrastructure is actually the barrier to internet access. But beyond that 20%, the majority of those are in urban communities. And so where we know there's a network, where we know there's an infrastructure, but the challenge becomes being able to afford internet access. So when you think about your bill for internet service, how much do you pay? It's sometimes upwards of $40, $50, depending on if you have a package, right, with phone and cable. So even though there may be a network in urban communities where people could access internet, it still is very much expensive for folks. And therefore, we find ourselves in the situation where there's still a digital divide.
What is your organization doing to close the divide? And what are you actively advocating for right now?
Sure. So EveryoneOn has been around since 2012, and we've been working to ensure that people have access. So we do that in a number of ways. One is that we work closely with internet service providers. So, for example, AT&T, Charter, Google Fiber, where they are in market. Cox and others. So we work with them to make available their low-cost internet offers. Many times they have one. So for example, AT&T has an offer called Access from AT&T. It's $10 a month for those that are eligible. Similarly, Charter has an offer, Google Fiber, Cox, and others. So we work with them to make their offers available through what we call our platform. And I'll talk about that in a second. Another thing that we do is work closely with organizations across the country. So whether it's a nonprofit, a library, a K-12 school, adult education center, public housing authority, we work with them to make sure that they are aware of affordable options in their respective communities. Thirdly, I mentioned this earlier about our offer locator tool. We've developed this tool that people can access on our website through text message and an interactive voice response system. So essentially this tool, people enter their zip code, they answer an eligibility question, and based on their zip code and their response to that question, we return to them the internet offers that are available in their neighborhoods. So it's really that tool that we promote to the diverse organizations that I spoke about earlier to ensure that they are generating awareness about the low-cost internet offers that are available in their regions. And then fourth, I like to say that the real magic happens and where all of this comes together is at the local level. So we have regional directors in 4 states, California, Florida, North Carolina, and New Jersey. These are states where we know there are high rates of households that are unconnected. And so we hired folks to put them in those regions and cities to work closely with schools, with nonprofits, with local government to build programs and other initiatives around getting people online. So in each state, each region, it looks very different. In some regions, we're working very closely with schools. In other regions, we're working very closely with the public housing authorities. And in others, we're engaging directly with the office of the mayor and council members to develop, as I mentioned, campaigns to get people online. And it looks really diverse, which is amazing because there are many ways to think about and strategize around how to get people online. And then fifth, we're currently managing in partnership with the Housing and Urban Development Department an initiative called Connect Home USA. And it's actually something that started under the Obama administration a few years ago. The idea of how do we connect those that are that are least impacted by the most impacted by the digital divide and probably least likely to be connected, which are folks that are in public housing authorities. These are folks that have annual incomes of $20,000 or less. So the idea of them being able to afford $70, for example, of internet doesn't make sense, right? So we partnered with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, to create a program that would engage directly with public housing authorities. So currently under the Connect Home USA initiative, there are over 30 public housing communities, is what we call them, across the country that are participating in this program. What that looks like for them, they take advantage of the different affordable options that the internet providers are making available. And then we help them think through how to leverage those and how to engage their residents, how to get the word out, how to partner with organizations in their respective communities to get them on board to provide digital literacy training, for example, or think about the device solution. So those are a few ways of what we're doing to bridge that digital divide.
One of the options that I know you used to offer, and I'm not sure if you still do, was to provide also information about training opportunities at the local libraries or with some of the partners that you work with. Is that still an option?
Yes, and I'm glad you raised that, because part of addressing this issue is not just the internet access, right? When we think about sort of technology access, digital inclusion, digital equity, when we think about what's needed in terms of the workforce, especially in the tech industry, it's understanding how to utilize computers and not being afraid of leveraging those tools. So in addition to working with internet service providers, we partner with device refurbishers across the country to make available affordable computers, including desktops, laptops, tablets. And we also partner with content providers, so organizations that have curriculum on digital literacy training, computer training, information on how to access online information on financial literacy, health, employment, education, etc. So on our website, when folks use the offer locator tool, they will not only be presented with internet offers, but also computer offers and a list of libraries in their respective neighborhoods that may be offering computer literacy classes. And in addition to that, the resources that I mentioned. So for example, we're currently partnering with the College Board, with Adriana, actually you're very familiar with.
Yes.
So we just added links to some of their resources online, which are free online. So again, we're trying to ensure that we're bringing, aggregating all of this content, all of these resources together for folks and making it easy for them and organizations to access in order to spread the word.
And those partnerships, effective partnerships, really make a difference for our community. Are there any success stories regarding access that you can share?
Sure. So I'll share a high-level partnership, which I think was very successful. And I think, Adriana, you were also involved with this at Univision. And I always think about this because I think it was a great campaign. And I truly love and appreciate that Univision, which is a network that I grew up watching, actually, really took this issue on, right, which was access. And so a few years ago, they launched Avanzamos Conectados. So really focusing on the digital divide, ensuring that people knew the importance and value of being connected around education, I felt, which was great. And so that partnership between Univision and Common Sense Media made perfect sense. And we were so happy to be able to play a small role in it, which was to link people to our offer locator tool. So Univision did a huge media campaign through their network and events as well to invite people to not only learn about the value of internet service or being connected, but also linking them to our offer locator tool. And so folks were invited to use a text message platform, enter their zip code, answer the eligibility question, and find out which offers are available in their neighborhood. So it was widely successful, at least from our our point of view, we did see, at least in that first year, over 60,000 people access the offer locator tool through Univision's text message platform, which was great. And I know Common Sense Media also had a huge success in terms of getting the word out around internet safety, how to utilize the internet at home, especially if you had young children in the household. So that's it. That's one sort of high level example of a success story. When I think about sort of where it really matters is at the household level. I can't tell you how many times myself and our regional directors have had the opportunity to help people get connected, and what that has meant for a family. So I think about one family in particular that I helped. I went to a school in South Los Angeles. I made a presentation about what we do at EveryoneOn, and I offered to assist anybody that needed to sign up for internet service. And so a woman with her family, with her 2 kids at the school, followed up with me, asked that I help her sign up, and I did. And I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, she calls me and asks me if I could help her turn on her computer. She had this laptop at home for, I think she said 2 months, and she had not taken it out of the box. And she had just received a note from the school letting her know that later in the school year, her daughter would be required to do her homework online. So she needed to have access, right? She needed to have internet access and a computer. And so this mom is there with a computer and now internet at home, but had no idea how to use it. So she asked if I could come over, and I said, absolutely, I'm more than happy to help. Went over, helped her just sort of explore the laptop, help her turn it on, something as basic as that, but knowing sort of that that help is going to, in the long run, be so much more beneficial if knowing that being able to use a computer was going to also help her daughter access her homework online and do everything she needed to do online. So that's pretty. When I think about sort of success stories, I always think about that sort of around impact as well.
Impact at the local, and you gave an example too at the national level. And what we're trying to do with Latinx America is to increase diversity by highlighting catalysts that are using, creating, or leveraging technology to make a difference for the issues that we care about. But if we go back to basics and our community doesn't have access to broadband, how are they going to be the next innovators and creators? So we need to go back, and for those of you listening, we need to think about how we can contribute to increasing this access to broadband. And I'm hoping that, in the next 10 years, that 40% will become less than 10%, just because if we don't have access to broadband, you're not going to be able to use the tools, and your children, or the children of many in the Latinx community, might fall behind. So
yes, absolutely.
So my next question is in regards to, you mentioned partners, and there are people listening. How would they partner with an organization such as EveryoneOn?
Yeah, so organizations are invited to reach out to us. We have our website, EveryoneOn.org. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well. To sign up to be a partner, specifically join our network of organizations that we call enrollment partners. On our website, folks could find an application. It's a very simple application, just your name, organization name, some contact information. And what we do is provide unique URLs to each organization. And that unique URL is directed to our offer locator tool, which allows organizations to share the resources with the folks that they serve. And the reason that we provide a unique URL is that because we want to help organizations track their success. So, for example, with Univision, we gave them a unique URL. So that's how we were able to track. We needed the data, right? How we were able to show and see how many people were accessing the text message platform. So that's one way of working with us. If your organization is a public housing authority or a library, or you work for a government official, specifically at the local level, Connect Home USA, the initiative that I spoke about earlier with public housing authorities, is another way that you could potentially partner with us. In fact, right now we have that application is open right now to take in new communities. So again, if you are a public housing authority and you're interested in learning how to connect your residents to these resources, you could apply online through our website. So those are a few ways. Also, I think it's just important in general for people, organizations to be informed about what's going on in this space. There are many organizations that are either focused on digital literacy, diversity and inclusion, the workforce level, internet access, net neutrality, or Lifeline. I encourage folks to check out the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. Again, it's the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, NDIA. Is the acronym, and they are a network of over, I think, 40 organizations across the country that are focused on digital equity. So whether or not you're familiar with this issue, I think it's just a great organization to become familiar with, and get a sense of what's going on in this space, right? What's being talked about, what are organizations focusing on, how does net neutrality, how does Lifeline impact this space, and what are organizations doing to ensure that everyone has equal access, and that it really is beyond the cell phone. And I don't mean to say that cell phone isn't enough, or that it should be, well, I guess I'm saying that it's not enough. It shouldn't be the only option that people have, right? So you shouldn't be a low-income student and only have access to your mobile phone to do your homework online.
I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I conducted a series of focus groups in my community, and we are in a very well-resourced school district. But some of the kids that we were talking with were coming from the city next door, and the students didn't have computers or access to a printer at home, so they had to spend their lunch hour and their breaks, waiting for the computer lab at their school for a computer or a printer to open up so they could complete their work. So having access to broadband, having access to a computer and a printer at home, those are the tools of the trade right now. If we want our students to succeed, we want to make sure that we're equipped with the equipment to be able to be successful.
Exactly.
Next question is, we talked about organizations, but people that are in the tech industry here listen to Latinx America. How can an individual, not necessarily an organization, but how can an individual contribute to your efforts to help you scale impact?
Sure. Thank you for asking that. One of the ways is just by simply being aware that folks could leverage our offer locator tool. So if people come across families, senior citizens, maybe someone who just can't afford internet service, feel free to direct them to our website, EveryoneOn.org, and they can learn about what may be available in their area. That's one way. Another way is to potentially sponsor a family, and I'm happy to discuss this with folks if they want to reach out to us via our website. But when we think about internet access, how much do you pay, right? I'm going to say that I pay $50 a month. So there's room to also think about how you could sponsor internet service for a family that needs it and can't afford it. There are some programs out there like Access from AT&T that makes available their product at $10 a month for those that are eligible. So thinking about $120 a year for a family, that goes a long, long way for a family that cannot afford 40, 50, 60, sometimes more dollars a month for internet service. And as a result, find themselves going to the library, staying late, or hanging out at McDonald's, etc. So that's another way individuals could support the work that we're doing. And another one is just to follow us on social media, again on Facebook and Twitter, just to learn what we're doing. And if folks have ideas about how to hack, if you will, this issue, would love to hear it. Also, something I think everyone should be aware of, actually, Adriana, is with the census coming up. So we are about a year and a half away for the 2020 census, and it's now going to be online. And it's the first time that it's going to be online. And so, there are conversations right now around how are we going to reach those that are historically undercounted, and that are now probably don't have internet at home or a computer at home, it's going to be mobile friendly, but nonetheless, we need to make sure that people feel comfortable filling out a form,
Mm-hmm.
a government form online. And so I think people need to be aware of that. And I know that the census, along with other organizations across the country, will be hosting hackathons on the census. So keep an eye out on that. And if you have ideas, like to contribute, I highly encourage people to do that. And then just in general, feel free to contact me. My information is on the website, or my email is norma@everyoneon.org.
Thank you, Norma, and thanks for being open to our community contributing to your efforts. The next question is more about you. Let's go back to you. We talked about your journey, but I feel like at the beginning we talked a lot about your professional journey. What was your personal journey growing up, and how did you decide to jump, to this industry where you're trying to create access for our community? And also, who influenced you the most and why?
Sure. So I grew up in Los Angeles, just don't throw away from downtown LA. So an area called MacArthur Park or Westlake.
Mm-hmm.
And as a teenager, I participated in a community youth program that was community service based. So we participated in community cleanups, community type events like health fairs, and hosting or helping at community meetings where a lot of issues around public safety were addressed. So at that age, there was a seed planted in me around this idea of civic engagement, civic awareness, and just participation, right, in this, and what it means for people to be involved in their communities and to give back. And ever since then, I've been attracted to issues that I know impact quality of life, which is a lot, right? Housing,
Mm-hmm.
education, and now technology access. And so I attribute my interest in wanting to bridge this digital divide and create digital equity to just growing up in a neighborhood where there was a need. And luckily I had an opportunity to volunteer, and that space was there for me to just learn about the value of community service, which I carry with me to this day. And when I think about people that influenced me, at the time, there's so many community members that I met that were older folks, that were senior citizens, and that were volunteering in their community, that cared about cleaning it up, that cared about making sure the sidewalk was not broken, and making it hard for people to walk on. And I think about my family, of course, my parents, super hardworking. My dad had a small business in downtown LA for over 20 years, and he was the epitome of hard work. To this day, he's going to be 94 in June, and he still works from home. And so I think about him a lot. Yes, I think about him a lot, sort of his work ethic and the importance of providing and, finding a trade that you love and pursuing it. And then I think about my mom, who really just dedicated her life to us, passionate about us and ensuring that we had the opportunities to thrive. I think unbeknownst to her, she had us participate in a variety of sports like swimming and baseball and karate. I don't think she knew it was, I think for her it was just a matter of keeping us busy, but, not at home, but really just provided I think a lot of knowledge around teamwork and leadership and sportsmanship. So I'm super thankful for those opportunities that my parents have been able to provide for us. So, community, my parents, I think are my biggest influencers.
Thank you, Norma. And last but not least, what is your next play, whether it's a campaign associated with work, or whether it's something that's on your plate that you wanna accomplish?
Sure. So I was thinking about this question, and something that I'm really excited about right now is, and it's just in an idea form right now, but I serve on a commission in the city of Pasadena. It's called the Commission on the Status of Women, and we focus on issues that impact women and young girls in the city. And so something I've been thinking about is how could we, through the commission, promote civic engagement through the use of technology. So, technology is a tool for social good.
Mhm.
So it's something that I'm really excited to explore with my fellow commissioners around how do we engage women more at the city level? How do we address community issues by leveraging technology? So more to come on that. Hopefully we'll be able to take on a project later this year that will highlight the importance of communicating with constituents or community members via technology on important issues like the ones that we're addressing on the commission.
I want to thank you for joining us, for the work that your organization is doing, for the work that you're personally doing to advance women in our community. And as you progress, as your campaigns progress, please keep us in mind, and we will send information out through Facebook or our social media networks to make sure that everyone is up to date. But I'm really serious when I say, Norma, that and the reason why it's important to have you and share what you're doing is because that 40% just boggles my mind. I'm thinking 40% of our community that wouldn't even be listening to to a podcast, that it's just completely not able to participate because they don't even have a basic access to broadband to be able to, whether it's to learn, to do work at home, or whatever it is that they can do through technology. They just don't have that access to be able to do so. So we as a community need to come together and do more and support organizations such as yours to make a difference.
Yes, thank you, Adriana, for having me. And please look us up, and happy to think about ideas to ensure that everyone has access.
Bueno, gracias y hasta la próxima.
Gracias.
Here are some key takeaways from today's episode. Through EveryoneOn.org, you can find affordable internet access packages. So if you know a low-resource family that still needs to be connected, please help them get there, since important information and forms such as the census will need to be submitted online. Also, consider partnering with EveryoneOn to increase awareness or directly get people online, or to participate in programs such as Connect Home USA. Finally, if you want to sponsor a family or become a partner of EveryoneOn, you can submit a message through their website, or please connect with Norma Fernandez via LinkedIn or email her directly at norma@everyoneon.org. Once again, if you're enjoying listening to our guests, please leave a comment through iTunes and share the podcast link with friends and family so they can subscribe as well. Together, we can work with organizations such as EveryoneOn to positively impact our community.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Latinx America and on Twitter at America Latinx, or email any questions or ideas to latinxamerica@gmail.com. Gracias y hasta la próxima semana.